So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the number of EU citizens moving to the UK plunges post-Brexit. It makes sense because of the things like visa requirements, which, it's red tape when you consider if you're an EU citizen, you can go to a whole host of different countries without a visa, without facing so many problems. The number of EU citizens moving to the UK has plunged since Brexit closed the doors to low-paid workers, according to the report. It's not just low-paid workers, though, that's the problem. It's the framing in these sort of articles, which is quite frustrating. The dramatic decline in migration from the EU has hit hospitality and support services hard. It's also, I think, hit the NHS pretty badly. It's also hit, certain crafts really badly as well, plumbers, electricians, all of those sorts of people. But the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford said Brexit has exacerbated a chronic labour shortage in Britain. We're already short on skills because we don't train people properly in this country. We teach them academics rather than vocational skills. Both are important. Data shows that just 43,000 of EU citizens received visas for work, family, study or other purposes in 21, a fraction of the 230,000 to 430,000 EU citizens coming to the UK a year in the 6 years to March, according to the ONS. So you see a stark decline in people coming here from the EU. Of those who migrated as opposed to travelling for business pleasure to the UK in 2021, EU citizens accounted for just 5% of the number of visas issued. So you can see it's a very small amount of people that are coming from the EU to work here compared to the rest of the world. It's cautious against blaming Brexit for the high number of vacancies in the UK, with the pandemic, early retirement among the over 50s, high employment levels across Europe and international labour shortages also contributing factors. There are other countries that are having major labour shortages, yes, but they're not being exacerbated by the end of freedom of movement. If we still had freedom of movement, you would have a lot of people from the EU still working here and helping to ease that labour shortage, especially when it's in certain areas the most. But we are seeing a labour shortage across the board, which is something I'll talk about momentarily. While there is some evidence that the end of freedom of movement has contributed to shortages in some areas of the UK labour market, it is by no means the only driver. We mentioned that. No, we didn't. In fact, recruiting difficulties are not unique to the UK, and several other countries have experienced high vacancies, said Chris Ford, a professor at Leeds University and co-author of the report for Rewage. The report found hospitality and lower skilled sectors were the worst hit by the end of freedom of movement. That's where you need, typically you need a lot of people to fill these roles. Hospitality lost 98,000 EU citizens in jobs in the last 2 years, and of course that's some people just leaving the country because of COVID, and then because of Brexit they never came back. Support services including cleaning and maintenance work were down 64,000 EU workers. Maintenance could be a whole host of things. It's a very broad word there, so it's not the one I would have gone for. But what you can see is it's a huge problem. Analysis of payrolled employees by nationality over a longer period between July 2014 to June 21 showed agriculture was also badly hit, losing 28% of EU workers, followed by hospitality and service staff. The largest decline in EU employment was in London, which makes sense, down 10% overall and down 30% in the hospitality sector alone. In several sectors, including construction and health, the number of non-EU citizens rose because these are the areas where it's easier to get a visa because of the money's typically more in the construction industry and in health, depending on what you're doing. In hospitality, you'd struggle to get a visa purely because you're not going to be on a lot of money because they don't pay hospitality staff enough in this country, despite all the Karens we have. You've got Tory MP admitting immigration has increased since Brexit. This despite the fact that, the Tories are meant to be the party of getting immigration down into the tens of thousands. A Brexiteer Tory admitted immigration has increased since Britain voted to leave the EU, despite the Leave campaign proclaiming that Brexit would mean taking back control. The UK is seeing a rise of people coming from abroad, which makes sense given we have a massive labour shortage. Neil O'Brien, MP for Harborough, MP in Leicestershire, accused Boris Johnson's government of liberalising non-EU immigration since Brexit and ending caps on visas. But to be fair, unless he had done that, who is actually going to do these roles, which typically we don't, British people either don't want to do or don't have the expertise to do. The number of small boats arriving on the shores of Kent had highlighted the issue. I mean, that's a whole different thing here that he's talking about. These are asylum seekers typically, which is something I'll talk about in another video. But, the framing of some of these articles and some of the arguments is just absolutely disgusting. Immigration will be one of the hottest issues facing the new Prime Minister, Mr. O'Brien wrote in the article for Conservative Home. First, many Leave voters assumed Brexit would reduce immigration, but since the referendum it's increased, and this is non-EU immigration. This is something the government has control over, but they're choosing not to use it for whatever reason. Probably because they know the consequences of not having enough people is far worse. When you look at the labour shortages we have in this country, it's really killing productivity. You've got this article from the Times that I've cited before saying that cabinet ministers are accused of breaching ministerial code. Stephen Barclay, the health secretary, called for changes to the visa system for healthcare workers to hire more nurses and social care workers from overseas. He too was reported to, I think his name is Simon Case, the one of the senior civil servants. Patel, her long-standing frustration at colleagues lobbying for more foreign labour, is understood to have prompted a compilation of a 15-page dossier, which contains details of every minister who has privately asked the Home Secretary to soften the immigration system. One who has seen the document says it spans virtually the entire cabinet, so everyone in the cabinet, right, which goes over, the vast majority of industry, different industries, services, agriculture, manufacturing, right, the three main ones. You've got ministers in those different sectors saying we need more migration for people to do these jobs. We have, right now we have more people coming into the country. Immigration has increased since 2016, but you have a massive plunge of the number of EU citizens coming here. So the fact, the idea that we wanted to take back control and we didn't need immigration is simply untrue. And this proves it. Now we only have a different kind of immigration. We do have less EU citizens coming here, and we have more citizens that look more like me, or from further afield, maybe from Far East Asia, maybe from Africa, maybe from South America, maybe from North America. I don't know. But the fact is you have less people from the EU coming here and more people coming from further afield, and I don't think the racists are going to be too happy about that. Especially because I would imagine that people who come on these visas from further afield countries might be more kind of determined to stay in this country long term, purely because it's a massive pain financially and also time cost to keep going backwards and forwards, every few months between the UK and whichever country they've come from. In the EU it's a lot easier, flights are relatively cheap and the airports are decent here, but if you're from further afield, from a country that doesn't have the best infrastructure for you to get around internationally when you land or when you want to leave, that can be a major headache. But what we can see here is the argument that Britain doesn't need immigration is simply false. A Tory MP has admitted that immigration has increased since Brexit. We know that it's more rest of the world citizens coming here. We also know that the entire cabinet, by the looks of it, have told Priti Patel that they need more immigration in the relevant sectors. That they have lobbied Priti Patel, and she's saying no because, in my opinion, she's racist. But that's up to her to figure out. But you can see we need more nurses, more social care workers. Not happening. And those are typically ones from the EU, so they're going to come from other countries, which it is what it is. It's not always the best to have people from other countries work in certain sectors, but we're in a situation where we're desperate now. We are absolutely desperate for people to come in to help people, and some of these older people that they're going to be looking after may not be the kindest towards non-white people. They might not have liked EU citizens much, but I tell you now, they're going to, some of those older people will look far more down at someone like me who's brown than someone who's from the EU. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.